The idea of the podcast is to talk, yeah.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
remember that.
Yeah, I'm aware.
But no, so I thought it'd be interesting to get you on the podcast for one, because you've been with Sentinel pretty much from the start, and I won't steal your thunder, but I've been instrumental in setting up Sentinel from a processing perspective, from all of the technology that we use, the AI, the automations, the machine learning that we're starting to incorporate into the business. Do you want to just kick off by sort of giving an overview of who you are, what you do, how you started?
Yeah, I can do that. So first of all, I've got quite a heavy background in web applications and computer programming and things like that. From day one of carving out my career, I suppose I would say it would be software development, web development, and a passion for programming.
Mm-hmm.
So did my degrees in computing and so my bachelor's in computing and my master's degree in web applications and services, and then went straight into actually worked throughout my master's degree as a junior developer. So it was quite a heavy introduction to programming and development and getting into sort of the industry was like a heavy hit from day one, and then from there it was just building on skill sets over a number of years, from maybe 4 or 5 years, and from there I went into multiple different roles for different development positions, and eventually worked my way up to sort of into like a claims management sort of development role, where we would be building out lots of different sites for lead generation and things like that. And from there it went on to running teams of people who were building out lots of different campaigns for marketing and lead generation, not just like 1 or 2 websites, but 10, 15 different campaigns in the same month, and really going at it full speed. And then from there I joined Sentinel, where sort of honed those skills under one roof, and sort of that's sort of how I got to this point with kind of a very in-depth knowledge base on lead generation, understanding how to procure a lead and transform it into a packaged case. And that's sort of what I do at Sentinel now, in terms of collecting data as ethically as possible, I guess, and sort of converting that raw data into a packaged case that can be brought to whatever route or journey we decide to take that case down. So so that, I suppose there's quite a lot to unpack there, but one of the things I remember when we originally interviewed you way back when was what I quite liked was the fact, obviously, you'd been to university and you'd done all of this programming and you clearly knew your stuff, but you'd had really rare hands-on experience really from sort of the front end claims management perspective, I suppose, or the marketing perspective as to how a customer is acquired through the various social media channels, what bottlenecks come with that and what problems can happen in terms of drop-off rate and, the sign-up process, and do they sign up there and then on a website, or whether it's through an SMS or it's an email. And that like raw understanding of customer journey combined with obviously your programming background was really sort of a USP I saw. I thought when, if you can come in and already understand the first 100% of the journey before it ends up at a solicitor's desk, because as Sentinel, you would traditionally buy a package case, a client from a marketing company, a claims management company, or so on, and you rarely have any involvement in the front end, the acquisition of that, how they were signed up, the origin of that client. And I think the fact that you had that is quite an interesting USP, I thought. So just going off that,
in terms of what you did from a programming perspective in your bachelor's degree, how did that help in terms of what you was facing, say from when you end up in a claims management sort of marketing role? What was you actually doing day to day for those companies that you used to work for?
Yeah. So I guess it starts with understanding the raw power of like programming code, and how you can sort of utilize like the I guess the baseline would be the understanding of the languages, the programming languages, to sort of achieve tasks that would normally take ages, but you apply a computer to it and it can sort of solve that problem very quickly.
Like what sort of problems was you coming up though? Because I think what's really interesting at the minute, and especially probably for the people who are listening to this, is everyone's talking about car finance claims at the minute. Obviously, that's what Sentinel does, and everyone's talking about, okay, well, how do you procure your clients? And obviously, you've seen it from Sentinel's perspective, but you also know from other claims that you've generated and been involved in website builds and so on. So, what is the sort of process, and how did you what was your involvement in that process?
Yeah, so essentially, like at the very beginning, working for like, I think it was called Peninsula Employment Law Company.
Yeah,
they had so much lead generation going on, where the raw rules were to sort of keep once traffic's been driven to a page, don't let that client drop off, don't let that potential lead drop off from the form, and so that's like 6 years ago now, almost 7 years ago now. I took that knowledge in and sort of built on that for every company afterwards. 4 or 5 companies, afterwards into today. That knowledge is still in practice, and it comes down to, there's so many different techniques that we use to sort of ensure that money spent on a pay-per-click campaign is there's so many ways that we make sure a client that's been paid for in a pay-per-click campaign stays on that page and completes that form, because there's things where there's a lot of effort involved in a person who, I say a lay person, but like a person who's sort of just come to that page just for their own sort of interest or whatever. They don't really know what they're expecting they're going to get there, and then we sort of take away all the difficulties that they may sort of experience whilst working on that, like working through that form, or trying to understand what the outcomes are, or things that might make or deter them from completing, those sorts of things that
what would cause drop off.
what would cause a drop off, basically. And we use a lot of different techniques, like as minimal touch points as possible, broken down into more consumable parts, so like small like step-by-step forms where they'll complete one step and move to the next step and then move to the next step, just making it easier for them to consume and sort of work through the form, as opposed to having like a full page of like fields that they're just thinking, oh my god, I don't want to deal with that.
I mean, especially because you're viewing on mobile, where like the screen real estate is so small that it can almost be overwhelming because they don't know what they're looking at.
I mean, we there's things like maintaining the focus point above the fold, so the minute a client has to scroll down the page means that they're probably going to lose it. I mean, it's crazy how quickly someone will lose interest looking at a form. I mean, we track a lot of movement on these forms. We have a lot of heat maps and things like that tell us where and when people are clicking and how they're moving their mouse and their thumb on the screen on like a phone. And we don't I don't know. I guess I don't know how to say it. Like bring it out in
nothing's
terms of
nothing's to chance. Like we're not sort of like assuming anything. Like it's all backed up in terms of processes, and this is how it works, and this is what we can track. But so I suppose that, just to go back to the question, was that when you was designing these websites and these processes and so on in like your previous roles before you started at Sentinel, like how did the programming background come into that?
Yeah, so I guess when I say that so with with the other companies in the past, they all sort of employed the same sort of techniques, and it's sort of the way that programming and technology itself come into mitigating the risk of losing a potential lead. For example, there's things like validation, verification, reduction of touch points, presenting things above the fold. All those things are sort of can be tracked and controlled by programming languages.
What do you mean presenting? When you say presenting things above the fold, what does that mean?
Oh, so when your page, when say you click on a Google ad or something like that, or like a YouTube ad or something, and then it pops up a web page, and then that first screen you see on the screen or phone, whatever, anything you have to scroll down to is below the fold.
Okay.
So typically on these sorts of pages, people will scroll maybe, I don't know, 1 or 2 inches below the fold, and if they're not interested, they never go past like the like 1 or 2 or 3 inches past the bottom of the fold. They just don't do it.
Wow.
And it's just if you don't grab them in the first screen that lands on the page, you pretty much lose them. So that's why you'll notice that there'll maybe be one section below the banner on every sort of lead form you land on, because no one ever goes down there. We track it with like heat maps. We always like check on whether or not the person scrolled and where they spend most of their time on the page, and they just never bother. They're not interested if you don't catch them in like the first instance.
So when you're sort of like looking at these clients that are coming through now, in terms of sort of, I mean, you've worked with Sentinel since like 2022 now. How has sort of that programming knowledge base that you did at university sort of helped you sort of troubleshoot? Obviously, I know you came in, we was working massively on spreadsheets, and I know the process is so much more efficient and slick now, and you've implemented a lot of automations with you and your team. But sort of like, can you just talk us through sort of what your experience was like starting with Sentinel, when it was back in 2022 to where it is now, and talk us through that progression through sort of skill set development, but more importantly, technology that's come around. Obviously, ChatGPT wasn't really a thing back then, and obviously OpenAI, APIs, and so on and so forth. Like, I know we can get really into the weeds on that, but just sort of give us an overview of sort of what's been done.
Yeah, and it's been a lot, to be honest with you, in a short space of time. I mean, the way the industry transformed in the past like 2 years, and the way technology and AI and stuff like took a massive boom in the last 2-3 years. Like it basically transformed like the way we do everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the beginning, I mean, just being able to apply like bespoke programming, like just so at the beginning when I first joined, there was a lot of like manual things happening, and
it's all spreadsheets.
Yeah,
like
also
millions of Google Sheets.
Yeah, spreadsheets, Google Sheets. Data was passed. Was sort of, you had to really understand the sheets to be able to work with them. You had to there was a lot of knowledge transfer, like by mouth, to sort of explain what things were and how, what the expectations were with this data, and those were like quite difficult challenges. And it was taking that information and sort of building a structured database of data, I guess, and being able to work with it through programming code, I guess, and be able to run operations on that code. There was a massive like step there for us to sort of import all of that data from those spreadsheets and get it into a system that could be worked on by bespoke built applications that were written by hand with code. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it was all manual, wasn't it? It was all, the DSARs were coming in. We had different batches of clients that were onboarding at different times. Then obviously we needed the sort of expert witness reports and the quantum methodology and the DSARs, and and what you did and kind of took a grip of all of that, and then you built your own database.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we did sort of have at the beginning we had those spreadsheets which once they were transformed into relational data, where a client can have many to one relationship with their claims, where they we had like a source of truth for the data that we could sort of work towards and keep clean, and there'd be no contamination or anything like that between other sheets or outdated sheets and things like that. It was sort of a source of truth. We could then apply, APIs and things like so application programming interfaces where we can connect through code and be able to work with externals. So like you say, the expert witnesses, where they would be able to provide reports based on the data that we could relay to them, and then they would relay responses back to us over time, but we wouldn't have to be passing sheets of spreadsheets between those guys and stuff, and they basically would it would sort of be like a fluid process. And that's kind of comes down to the document analysis as well, where we would be reviewing financial documents and getting reports based on those documents, and that was kind of like a turning point really right at the beginning. Do you know what I mean? Being able to do all that stuff so quickly, as opposed to getting sheets back and sort of having to go through them one by one.
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest things that shocked me initially, and I think this is a problem that a lot of people don't really consider in the industry, is that you have a huge problem with duplications, because a lot of people who are not as tech savvy or anything like that, they will submit a claim on Facebook, TikTok, whatever platform they come through, and sometimes they think it's not come through properly, so they'll then resubmit that claim. And within one batch of clients, you can have duplicate clients, or obviously the biggest one for us was private registrations that was flagging as a duplication right at the start. But it was through that process of sort of trial and error with yourself that you managed to, via the database, create a pretty robust filtering system that I think anyone listening who hasn't sort of considered really needs to consider. Just talk us through sort of like the problems that we faced right in the early days.
Yeah, we did have there was quite there were some fairly big problems, in terms of data integrity and in terms of duplication and guaranteeing the uniqueness across cases and things like that. The way we sort of operate a claim is based on the policy number that's applied to the finance agreement, right? And the policy number is the
unique identifier.
Is the unique identifier, yeah. And there's so many different formats of a policy number. You can get spaces, you can get hyphens, you can, people like BMW have multiple different subsidiaries, and they can apply. They can have the same policy number, but with a prefix of, APH for Alfera or BMW, and that's interchangeable across different. It's interchangeable across the same number, so they could provide us with the same number, and they'd just swap that out, and then we would just assume that's a fresh policy number, and that was just one of the many ways that easily the duplications could occur, where really that's the same policy number, but they've swapped out the prefixes, and that's just their formatting. And that's one way. But I mean, nowadays when we do that sort of stuff, we have consolidated databases across multiple different channels that we sort of like procure these cases that ensure policy numbers are unique, the clients are unique based on certain information that they provide, that sort of ensures the integrity of the data that we create, and someone's not submitting the same claim twice, or they're not able to sort of. I mean, at the moment we put in place lots of different checks that ensure that these clients are not, they're not signing duplicate documents. They're not applying through different channels. And but in the beginning, it was very much a case of data analysis.
Yeah, learning on the job.
Data analysis, understanding what where we collected the data from. How that was sort of structured, and trying to piece it all together and consolidate it into our database that we could then work on.
Yeah, you could then query the centralized database for different reports.
Exactly.
and bulk check against client base and so on. So obviously, and I think it's just worth stressing that this has all been built by you. It's been built because you've identified the problem, you've built it, you've stripped it down, you've built it again, built in different features. What do you foresee sort of a law firm, a claims management company that doesn't kind of have an equivalent of you? Is this like a massive, massive problem that is going to cause them huge problems? Not necessarily in the onboarding phase, but you almost don't find out about it until you're 6 months down the road. When the lender comes back to you and goes, "Well, we've already got this client. You've submitted this client twice or whatever." Is this something that is, in your opinion, not being considered properly by other people in the industry?
I mean, it's I think it comes back down to like you say, like it's sort of like a kicker, like later down the line, and if you don't like root out all these problems at the very beginning, you end up with just wasted resource trying to process and sort of drive that particular case to the end zone. Do you know what I mean? And get it to the point where it's submitted or however you describe it being completed. You know what I mean? Depending on the journey that you take with the case, you've put in a lot of work just to get to the point where they tell you, this has already been received. So really trying to crack it right at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I mean that, thankfully we never got to that point where, the lender would say, well, not in high volumes. You know what I mean? There may have been one or two situations like where we had a strange situation, like, we'd have, it'd be like, you've already submitted this policy number or something like that, or this client's already had their LOA, their letter of authority, has already been applied by a separate firm or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they are not working on, validating and verifying that these clients are solely committed to that particular firm, like ours, I would say, that's a massive waste of resources.
It's going to cause problems.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you're going to have duplicates.
Yeah, you're going to have duplicates, and you're going to be sort of turning around trying to work out with the lender like who takes priority, I guess, later down the line.
Yeah,
you're not really. I mean, I'm not sure how much work other firms are putting into like their processes and like how bulletproof they're making their stuff. But I mean, for us, it all starts right at the beginning for us in terms of validating the data, validating the client, validating the policy number, ensuring that the client actually has a claim before we start taking it forward, and that they're not committed elsewhere and things like that. We make it very clear throughout the whole process that they're signing an agreement with us that we're the ones that run that case for them. And I guess we use we do like have like quite a large database now of clients that we can check against. But at the beginning, it was just what we had. Yeah. Like we had to just check against the clients that we had, and we had duplicates in there. You know what I mean? In the spreadsheets and stuff, that was a bit of a pain, where data had been collected from different sources, and the same sort of client would come along and be...
Yeah, they've submitted multiple times and got through the limited filters at the time.
Yeah, and that was a challenge, but now things are a lot easier for us to sort of control that problem.
Yeah, and I think it's something that's not discussed enough really, because your you're accepting as a law firm, you're accepting that you could be in, if I don't know what claim type it is, but let's use car finance claims in this case, obviously, because that's all we do. But you can have 5 or 6 different introducers all running the same ads on the same platforms on TikTok and social media and so on. And the people who are submitting those claims, they're seeing the same adverts multiple times, and they probably think that they can hedge their bets and they can do it with multiple firms, and whichever firm does it first is who they'll run with. But I think in terms of, like you say, the credibility of the data, and more importantly, like the process that you've got now or that you've built, obviously in terms of the multiple touch points, in terms of validation, and obviously I want you to talk on the process that we do now in terms of how you can almost like be 99% sure that this is a real client with a real claim, and there's their agreement number, and this is how much they've spent, and there's the total amount of finance, and there's the start date, and it all comes in almost real time. And then what you do with that data. Do you want to just sort of like talk us through everything that you've built off the back of all of the sort of failures that we've had and the learning?
Yeah, I think so. So dealing with the legitimacy of like of a client and their potential to have a claim and things like that. At the start, when it was spreadsheets and people looking at the documents,
people didn't even know what the claim type was. To be fair,
yeah. It was. Even I was. I'd never been on the other side of it. Do you know what I mean? Like I would always been on the side of
generation.
Yeah, generation, and then stepping on the other side of the thing, because usually before I would just we'd work on the generation of the lead, collect the data, and pass it off to a law firm
via a spreadsheet.
Yeah, well, no, never via a spreadsheet. Never via a spreadsheet. Okay. It's always been through API. That's why I was so shocked when I joined. I was like, I can't believe you guys are doing it. I can't believe that's actually
no
happening.
insult intended.
No insult intended, but don't worry, I fixed it straight away. That was like job number 1.
Yeah.
And then I guess, so I mean, going back to what we were talking about with
the client journey.
Yeah, the client journey. Essentially, the collection of the data, it changed multiple times over the course of 2 years. Do you know what I mean? Initially, we were asking people for their permission so that we could, send out the DSAR immediately, which would take 28 days to return. What else would we do? We'd need them to give us a DSAR per lender, so they'd have to like highlight and remember all the lenders that they'd used in the past.
Mm-hmm. Which was obviously a long process for the client.
Yeah, they would have to select lenders and sort of give us license plates of the cars if they could remember them, and there was all sorts of different like things that they had to do, and so that's how we sort of started with sort of optimizing the process, giving them like a form that they could fill in to sort of give us the basic information so we could go away and work it. And it was a lot. I mean, that was still like probably a year ago now.
It was a lot of information, but I will add, Martin Lewis on his form says that you don't even need to remember the name, the policy number. You don't need to remember your car registration, just as long as you remember your lender. And then he sends a letter of complaint off and assumes that that's going to do anything. Like, for a fact from the messages that we get back from the lenders that you just said how much information we used to collate from the client before we could even send a DSAR.
They would want a signed letter of authority with like all up-to-date information about the client, their address, their date of birth. Yeah, or they want an ID, and they'd want a verified ID. They wouldn't just want some scanned-in rubbish version. Like, we had to do ID verification. We'd use AI to verify this is going a little bit further now, where we'd use like image recognition to guarantee that it was an ID and that it was a UK ID and that it was all readable, that the image was there.
In date.
It was in date. Yeah, it was a valid license.
Yeah. So Martin Lewis, you are wrong.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy to say that you just need the lender to, we had to do a lot, and certain lenders were a little bit more accepting, but they still required a ton of information. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you had to build your process around that.
Yeah, of course. And people are busy. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to sort of just, they don't want to go through the process of reading documentation and then signing it, knowing they're safe, and then get into another step where they've got to upload their ID. And then if that ID is checked and verified and it fails verification, they're going to have to Do you know what I mean? They're going to have to resubmit, or they're going to get an email to ask them, can you resubmit your ID because it wasn't a good enough picture?
Well, that's what I was going to say to you. That whole onboarding process, if it's not done, this is obviously talking about in the past. If this wasn't done correctly, we then had to recontact the client to say, can you re-upload this? We think you've put your date of birth in wrong, or you put your date of birth in. It was a free text field then, so people could just type it in, and then we think they've got it like which way's the date, which way's the month.
Oh yeah, there's
formatting issues about where he'd put it in the American version and not the UK.
Unbelievable intricacies in just those forms.
All things that people don't consider though.
Yeah,
like, this is big. Like down to the T. This is big data management.
Yeah, yeah,
like, big data management. Forget it's a package claim. Forget whatever you want to call it. This is data management on a large scale.
It is, and we collect. The reason we collect, like we try to collect the bare minimum, is because it is so challenging to unify or create data that is so uniform that it can be, do you know what I mean, applied and analyzed in a way that we can use it effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Because like giving people free reign to type whatever they want, or some guy in his 60s with his glasses on and he takes them off for a minute, forgets to put them back on, and then types an extra letter by accident, or a hyphen, or something
typing
like
with his fingers on his like Android, like the way mums and dads tap. Like, they look at the phone and tap with their index finger.
It's crazy.
Or
you've
got to cater for them all. Yeah, the drag swipe. I forgot.
The drag.
That's an Android user thing.
Yeah, where you can go to each letter individually.
Yeah. But the opportunity for client error during the submission process is very high.
Yeah, and so that's why reducing the amount of data we collect and the way in which we collect it is sort of critical to, like I say, uniforming the result, I guess, is the best way to describe
it. It's ensuring the same outcome every single time, isn't it?
Yes.
And I think obviously just to like put it into layman's terms, like what I think James is saying is that you're not giving the client the opportunity to manually do anything.
Yeah.
It is a predefined, it gives them a calendar to select their date of birth. It's not like type in 01/02/2025, and then the same with the address. You have the real-time address lookup, the real-time phone verification.
We do a lot of that. I mean it was after we started dealing with the fact that we weren't doing that, and we were like, well, how can we fix this? Because we've got their ID, maybe we can use their ID to collect the correct date of, to fix the date of birth where they've put it in wrong, where it could never be that date. There's no way it could be that date. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the date of birth. And we'd think, well, maybe we could use the ID that we've collected and we can fix their date of birth. And we just thought that's not going to work. We're going to have to go back and get them to come and re-provide that data because we weren't at the stage where we could, I don't know, maybe it wasn't like 100% concrete way of solving the problem in terms of looking at it from a retrospective point, like they've supplied the data badly or our collection process isn't spot on, and then we go and try and fix it by looking at their IDs and confirming. So that's why we changed the process to sort of, they select from defined options that we've given them on the forms. They can click to select their address after putting in their postcode. There's no room for ambiguity there in the way that they can select their address. Same with the emails and phone numbers. We always do I've shown you this 100 times, haven't I, where we have services that will validate those particular inputs in real time as a letter is being typed, to make sure that the mailbox is live, it's receiving emails, it can handle it's actually actively used and things like that. And the same with the phone number, that the line's active, it's a UK phone number. It's it's in use. And
this is all like a real-time cost as well. It's not it's an additional cost to the company, to Sentinel, to ensure the quality of the data, to minimize fallout, I suppose.
the minute we get that information, we the minute they click submit, we make sure that we need that we need those particular pieces of data so that we can progress the case. It's not like we're taking it because we just want to sort of use it. They're critical to the progression of the case.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, for example, we need their specific date of birth, their address, and their first name and last name to apply a credit check to realize the client's policy numbers so that we can create the claim documents to submit to the lenders.
Yeah. So I just want to go on to that now, because obviously everything we just talked about is like what the old way of doing things. Like this was like the pre sort of like mid 2024 way of doing things. And obviously now everything's massively changed. The relationships with the credit bureaus has obviously come on side. I think they're seeing the opportunity in the market. Just talk about like how the sort of data validation process works in real time now, and how you can ensure like almost like not 100%, but be very, very, very certain that, Sam submits his claim, he's got a claim, we can see it there, it comes through the system, real time API, how that's delivered.
Yeah. So it starts with so obviously the data capture forms is where we start with that, which is the website. Yeah,
or any website that is sort of what you're using.
Exactly. Yeah, and we we deploy like quite an impressive sort of infrastructure, and like behind the scenes, like we're all cloud based now. We have scalable. We have like scalable infrastructure now that
just explain what that means. Like why is being cloud based, one, and two, it being scalable on automatic, on like autopilot. You've explained this to me and it's really cool. Like, so.
Oh yeah. So we don't like have like some dedicated virtual private server that's got like 16 gigabytes of RAM and a big hard drive of like 1 terabyte or something like that sat somewhere. We have like, so what we use is something that's quite elastic. It has like a built-in load balancer. It's got sort of like a resource tracking sort of system involved, where it can understand when high volumes of traffic are coming through the websites and hitting our back-end servers, and then it will actively grow or reduce the number of servers that we have in operation to sort of handle the level of traffic that comes through. So there'll never be like a breakdown in like the processes. Like we'd never hit like 10,000 clients signing up on a day, because the infrastructure in the back end will grow as that traffic increases or intensifies automatically. Yeah. No one's watching that.
That is so cool.
We just leave it running, and when it wants to go, it goes.
Yeah, because I remember when we was talking about the ITV News piece going out, and you was telling me like, when I was like, the website's not going to crash, is everything like ready to go? And he was like, yeah, everything's autopilot.
We could turn it up higher, but I don't think even these particular servers that get these instances, they're called, every time one goes up, it's not some small little 2 gigabytes of RAM little system. It's got like,
it's capable.
Yeah. It's got like 6.
It's like activating the Marines.
Yeah. It's some serious hardware that we put up there, and
that's all automatic.
Of course, yeah, it is. It's all automatic. It will. There are different metrics that we use to sort of determine whether or not a new instance should be spun up in the cluster, and it's like a cluster of different machines, right? That decides whether or not, and the different metrics we look at as number of packets in and out of those servers. So like internet packets that travel across the internet, and they go into our server and out, and how many are transferred in a period of like 5 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever. If that hits like a certain threshold, we increase. Or if one of the instances is hitting like a high CPU load, and it's dealing with it's at like 60% for more than like 3 minutes. The next one will spin up and start taking the traffic. There's a bunch of different metrics that we use. I mean, one of them is like increased memory use. So if we hit like a certain threshold on the memory on one of the instances, it will pop up the next one. We have a lot of operations running on these machines. So, just from like document generation to, applying signatures, backing things up in the cloud, database transactions, all these sorts of things are happening all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's like where you was leading on to, wasn't it? So in terms of the process of, coming through the credit report happening, like just talk us through that.
Yeah, of course. So we, once we collect so essentially it starts with the website and being able to handle, quite high levels of traffic where multiple clients will basically input their data. We obviously in real time verify that data to make sure that it's, accurate without error. And, they haven't really put in a lot of effort to provide us with that data. Once they provide us with the initial set of data, we can then create documents for them. Like in real time, we'll dynamically generate those documents, print all the information they've provided, and then they'll be able to sign those documents on an e-sign.
So those documents are created from the information found on the credit report.
That is the next step afterwards. So the initial signature we get is gives us permission to run the credit check, and once they submit that signature and they check the boxes to give us permission, we then do a few different things. We validate against a consolidated database of clients just to we talked about duplication and all the things that we have. So,
which is our existing database.
Yeah, our existing database across all our different channels of either introducers or platforms or whatever. And then we move on to sort of updating all of our records server side. We back up everything in the cloud. We've got multiple backups of all of the documents that we produce, all of the signatures that are created. We serialize, and which basically means we convert them into reusable formats so that we can print them onto the documents correctly when necessary. So for example, once we've done the credit check, which happens in that same sort of set of processes, so essentially when they sign, goes up to the servers, we back up the data, we back up the document that they signed, then we run the credit check, and then that returns us a 6-year credit report, which that happens in real time. It's a PDF. We then use some technology to scrape and sort of read that document and transfer the data from that document, or I guess the information from that document, and convert it to data, and then we would insert that data into a database that could then be worked on through APIs and programming code and things like that, so we can generate the next or move on to the next steps in the process, basically, which would be.
So when does the 15-year credit report come into that?
It's still working. I think it's like a work in progress, but at the moment we receive it separately, and that means that unfortunately the client has to wait a few days before they get a full update on all of the claims that they have like available to them. Mm-hmm. So we.
What is it? What is the time period?
It's supposedly around between 24 and 48 hours.
Okay.
Can be sooner, can be later, depending on the volume. I mean, when we did 9,000 of them all in one go, took them a little while to give us them back. Yeah. And so, they basically, we get back the 6-year report immediately. We can take the data out of that straight away, but then we have to wait a day or two to get back the extended 9 years, and from there we do another sort of analysis on that data that comes back, and then we pull that data out. We grab the policy numbers off those sort of reports, and then we create new documents, and they're considered claims at that stage because of the uniqueness of the policy number. And we had the lender names, a lot of the information from that you would need to submit a claim, and realistically,
like what sort of information?
Well, we take like the lender name, the type of finance that was taken out, the start date, the amount that was paid, the length of the contract,
policy number.
Policy number, obviously, yeah. And how well the client did with that particular
delinquencies,
finance. Yeah.
When they've missed the payments and stuff.
Yeah, and we only get the actual car finance information, though. We don't really. At the beginning, when we were doing credits, because this is just another iteration of our processes. Initially, we would get everything, and we would only scrape the data for the car finance agreements, which was sort of a bit more of a headache. But now we exclusively only get car finance details on our credit reports, which means it's a lot less.
It's a lot less information to get confused with, isn't it? It's a lot more slick.
Yeah, and it was one of those ones. It was one of those ones where there's so many different variations of finance that you could get, and it can be provided in so many ways to consumers. Do you know what I mean?
I think the biggest one is, obviously, and you wouldn't know this unless you've done it, is that Close Brothers provide, like a premium finance option where Close Brothers might be paying your monthly installments for your car insurance, or like some form of like household appliances, I don't know, but also Close Brothers are a massive car finance lender as well, so it was being able to differentiate between the two, wasn't it?
Exactly. Like you wouldn't know whether or not it was Close Brothers for car finance or Close Brothers for home mortgage and stuff like that. It would
just be the values that would give it away, but it kind of hindered the automation, didn't it?
Yeah, it definitely made it a challenge. And I think because, Experian, they deal with the credit checking side of things, that they sort of realized that, there's some compliance stuff there that they needed to address, and that's why they gave it to us like that instead. But yeah, well, I mean, once we have all of the data off the credit reports, the full 15 years, we then produce the appropriate documents, the letter of complaint and things like that would be sent to the lender, and we inform the client, of all the claims that they have available, based off the unique policy numbers, and we give them the signed documents to let them know that it's all done, and we've figured it all out for them, and then we bank the letter of complaint ready to send out to the lender. Yeah,
and then I suppose the next step, if you refer to that as phase one, obviously that's then going out via automated emails to the database of email addresses that we've got for the correct lenders. And then it's going out and being listened, that particular mailbox is being sort of listened to by what will come on to next, which I suppose is sort of the whole AI piece and chatbots and so on. Do you want to just sort of like lead on to that?
Yeah, of course. So we do obviously use like, we when we create these documents, we prepare them and we get them ready to go into the out to the lenders, and they have different formats in which they want us to sort of provide those letters of complaint. And the first way we do it is that we either just email them one by one, however they want to get it. I mean, we've in the past, when we were like doing the litigation side of things, I mean, we've broke mailboxes with the number of emails.
I remember when BMW contacted us and said, "Stop sending these. We'll do it all on." And ironically, they wanted everything on a spreadsheet, but it forced a lot of lenders to pay attention to us because of the volume, and a lot of them, even on the DSAR side of things, wanted to just know what we wanted, and then they sent back a spreadsheet of the sort of commission type, commission amount, and agreement numbers, didn't they?
Yeah, and we had to, we basically had to sort of, adapt to sort of what they wanted. I mean, I think that at one stage they wanted us to upload everything to an FTP server, just upload all of the details, all of the files.
Each lender had a different process, really.
Yeah, they did. That some of them just wanted a spreadsheet, others would submit. We would submit to an FTP server, and they would return the detailed, like the DSAR responses and things like that, to FTP servers. And
some of them had individual passwords for individual files.
Yeah, it was like, and that was just like such a pain, because like who had the passwords? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, they'd send the document and then they'd send the password in another email, and
with those companies being so big, like you know what I mean. If you didn't have that person of contact at that in that particular department, it was almost like going around in circles trying to get access to the stuff that we needed. Yeah.
So sort of moving on from, obviously you've talked about the problems that we had and, you know, how you overcome them. Obviously, ChatGPT is a massive part of my life now, for, you know, big data analysis and stuff like that. But how are you and the team currently using it? Plans to use it? Obviously you've just grown the team by two new guys. Obviously, they've got a very interesting background as well, which I think is going to be a massive USP for Sentinel in the future. But do you want to just give us some background on that?
So at the moment we're sort of we've already worked quite hard to, you know, internally to sort of build our own infrastructure and build our own technology to sort of like the whole claims process is built by hand by me in the beginning, but now we also have a few additional guys that are
full-time developers.
Yeah, full-time developers that are very well versed in newer technology, shall we say, AI and
well, one of them's got a degree in what?
Machine learning and AI, artificial intelligence,
which is crazy.
Yeah, that's really cool. And the other lad that's working for us has a background in image recognition, where they would submit faces to a database and work out.
That was wild. You know, shout out Sam and Mitchell for one, but Sam was telling us about that. It was all CCTV stuff.
Yeah, which is really kind of cool technology.
Scary though when he was telling us those stories.
Yeah, I mean the way that they can categorize whether a person is, you know, safe or not, like in real time, just from like a CCTV image. It's like pretty cool. Yeah. So the technology, you know, both got pedigrees in their you know in their history, and the technology has advanced obviously in house that we've built, and now we're sort of expanding on that using like lots of different like AI routes, and obviously these guys are coming in with a lot of different ideas that we can sort of utilize. Yeah. One of the first ones that just comes to mind is the AI code writing that we're using. So it blows my mind, this stuff. Like I really do get kind of excited, because after you've been writing code for like 10 years, and you have to really be quite critical of your own code and how well you've written it and how readable it is and how effective it is and how efficient it is.
I just like for everyone listening as well, like writing code is literally like writing another language.
Yeah.
Literally. Like, I can't oversimplify that. It is another language.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not like a language like a spoken language. Like language in programming is always developing. Like they're always iterating on the version of the language. So there's always new things to learn every year. Right. Improved, you know, optimized versions of the language previously. So, you know, there's like standardizations like ES6, ECMAScript 6.
Oh, you're really 7. Nerding out now.
Yeah. Well, you're asking the questions. So.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. I can see you're about to go down a rabbit hole that I'm not going to understand.
Well, every year, you know, developers are like, well, wouldn't it be easier if the language did this? And they're like, and the guys who built the language are like, yeah, all right, let's do that. And so, you know, they see what the problems are for developers.
Boring conference.
It probably is. Yeah. I mean, I would love to attend a couple of them. But, I mean, it's one of those, I think. But I mean, so going back to what we was saying about AI and stuff, so after writing code for like 7-10 years or whatever, we you know, you sort of appreciate when a machine can read the code base that you've written and then figure out what you're going to write next and jump to the next point on the page and write it for you.
What?
I know, like that just when I saw that for the first time, like I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
So essentially, is that working like it takes its time to understand how you write code, and then but it also reads what you're writing in terms of, right, okay, he's building a website or he's doing this, so the next logical thing would be to do this. I'm just going to write that code for you.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of that, a combination of those things.
Does it write in your style?
This is, I mean, it has done, but I don't know if that's by accident. It could be really coincidental.
That you're just like as good as the computer.
In some cases, yeah, I mean, yeah, yes. I guess that's one way of looking at it. I guess that I'm as good as a computer, or the computer's as good as me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'd say the computer's as good as you.
Yeah. It's the basically the AI model that's trained specifically to look and optimize programming code is basically reading the entire code base. So it's looking at the whole project. Obviously, we have tons of different projects. And it's literally like you switch it on and it immediately knows the whole code base. And there's thousands of lines of code. I mean, take people forever to read through every single piece. And it knows when I write something, it knows exactly where in the page to jump to and start writing the next bit.
Wow.
Before it had something called IntelliSense, which was like it can guess the next word because there's only select a couple of options that it could be. So it could do that before. That was just something like, and that was like the industry standard for a long time. But this is incredible. Like say you've got like 10 different things. It will write all 10 of those things, and it will know that it's hard to articulate the way it can figure these things out. It knows that the model understands the as soon as you write the first line, it's like, okay, I got you, and it will write the next line, and then it will go the next step and jump, and then it will sort of figure out things that, so like having done it for so long, write code, like I've already thought out a lot of the stuff that I need to write in my head. It's just a case of actually physically writing it. And the AI that we use, it already knows. It's already guessed what I've thought up, and I just have to tab my way through this instead of actually typing the code myself.
So what is the bonus of that? Obviously, what was the pro of using that?
So I guess it's my productivity shot up like incredibly.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, what would have taken me like 2, maybe 3 hours to write? I guess you have to really, once you've written it once, you have to really understand the code you've written and approve it yourself mentally. You know what I mean? But instead of actually writing it, it can guess it for you, and you just have to sort of glance at it, and you can tell immediately that it's correct. Productivity went through the roof.
So like a project would take 2 or 3 hours, and now it's taking what?
Yeah, and I think as well the accuracy it has. Yeah, the accuracy in what it writes. I mean, in some cases, like you always have to review it. There's always like an element of review. Like we have a lot of processes in place that allow us to sort of, peer review and paired programming and things like that. And so regardless of whether or not we allow the AI to write it all for us, the next step in our journey for, submitting code to our actual production code base, like our live environments, ones that clients use and, internal systems that we use or whatever, there's always another step where there's a manual review process that just ensures that before it gets, put into live production environments that, we've checked it, double checked it, made sure it's all correct, make sure it's all safe.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to break and stuff like that. So that's another part of it. But the accuracy and the efficiency that it provides is just quality. And
it's just allowing you, I suppose, to test new ideas. And I know when we was talking about the signature verification issue, and for anyone who is listening, is that when you're allowing clients, and a lot of clients, to e-sign documents, they don't always just put their signature. Some people just must have a lot of time on their hands, and they'll draw unmentionable things into the box or write swear words, or they won't actually do a signature, which obviously causes it causes a massive problem, because ultimately they're signing legal documents that will be sent off to the car finance lenders as proof that this client has signed a live letter of authority. They've signed their documents. They are our client. We act on their behalf. And, if you're sending across a document, which I don't think a lot of people consider actually, if you're sending across a document to a car finance lender in batches of thousands and thousands of lines of clients, then you are going to look stupid when they check the validity of the document and see a big penis drawn in the box, which we've seen a million times. I'm not even exaggerating.
And the worst thing is, like, it questions our legitimacy. Like, you know what I mean? That
it questions your due diligence, doesn't it, on your clients? And I know when we addressed this problem like a year ago, was that was one of the biggest problems to go, well, how do you build a genuine signature verification tool? And obviously what you just discussed there in regards to the way that the code is now written by AI, and it knows what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, it can, I mean, we've used a couple of different approaches to sort of fix this problem. We sort of asked, AI how it would go about solving these problems, and it gave us a couple of different answers. And so we have a few different things in place that now allow us to sort of verify the signature. And and they're all AI based.
Yeah. Well, we used AI to solve the problem. Like I remember
we asked
doing
AI how to fix it, and then we made AI fix it for us.
Yeah. So, which is wild, to be fair, because you have to have a understanding of AI and what's available to be even able to arrive at the decision to consult AI. So I suppose like what you guys are doing within the team are you've almost got unlimited team capability in terms of like brainstorming ideas and so on, because you've got the brainstorming tools such as the AI, you've got the knowledge bases, the sort of three of you, in terms of like what problem are you genuinely trying to achieve to make sure the prompt to AI is absolutely to the T what you want.
Yeah.
But then more importantly,
prompt engineering
literally is that. But then you've got the AI capability to then go, okay, I'm going to start writing this code because I know what I'm trying to achieve. And then the AI goes, oh, I see what you're doing there. Let me take over.
Yeah, it's really,
which is crazy.
It's helpful. Yeah, I mean, trying to work out these, you'd have to bring in experts in the field. You'd have to do all these different
Well, previously it was image recognition, wasn't it?
Yes.
It would take pictures of the e-sign box. It would OCR it. It would then run it through a number of rules.
Yes.
And it would then, based on stroke width, stroke length, time to write, how big of surface area the signature took up, it would then validate whether it was a signature or not.
Yeah.
And a lot of the swear words got through because people physically had to write the swear word out.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, understanding pattern recognition. Does it resemble a word? Does it resemble a phrase? Is it, and then working out if it's like an image or a dot or a line or something
smiley
like that.
Face.
A smiley face, or a tree or something.
Or
ridiculous.
Just like an asterisk or something.
Yeah, and then trying to sort of, figure that out and then resend out there was other things that was like part of that were made it more challenging. I think it was that what do we do at that phase when we realize that the signature is incorrect? Do we sort of say bygones be bygones? This person obviously isn't interested. Do we leave it, or
do you re-engage?
Do you re-engage, and do you kind of say this signature isn't acceptable? Like I think even though they put that sort of bad stuff, that profanity stuff onto the pad, I think it's still a valid signature.
Well, there is a Supreme Court, not to get a bit nerdy, but there is a Supreme Court judgment that says that if you sign a legal document and you put a line or an X or anything like that, like it's validated now, because e-sign became massive, obviously definitely over COVID anyway, and there is a Supreme Court judgment now to say that, I can't remember what it is, but if you ask AI, you intentionally knew you was reading a document and you were signing a document, and if you signed it as an X, it is actually qualified as a live, legitimate signature. There's Supreme Court ruling on it. I've checked it out because I've had the argument many a times with different lenders.
And that just makes it more difficult to sort of determine whether or not, to accept the signature.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes down to like I suppose a business decision then, doesn't it? If from your own compliance perspective. But so just building on what you were saying in terms of the AI code building and where AI is going in terms of the tools that you're utilizing and what we're utilizing within Sentinel. So just let's circle back to that. What do you think is, I suppose the question I'm trying to ask is, what do you think is next for Sentinel? But more importantly, do you see that these tools are now a part of your daily work life, like almost a necessity?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, AI code writing, that is just, it's, I mean, if I went back to the way it would be, I think it's not an acceptable level of productivity to sort of work with, just because of the amount of just because of the my day is extremely busy, and that I only have so much capacity. At the beginning it was like 18-hour days, and this is sort of chopping down on a lot of programming code now because I've got AI has got my back. I mean, it's even got functionality where I can ask it, can you do something, and it will write a whole like page's worth of code for me, and it won't be through like, it will just write the code and then hope for the best that it's correct. I mean, the agent will write the code, and then it will check its own work and make sure that it's correct. And if it's incorrect, it will rewrite it and test it, just like a real developer would do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so
it's able to test itself.
It's testing itself. It is literally it's like an actual person is writing code, reviewing that it's correct, testing it. If it's not right, it rewrites it. Do you know what I mean? It's like an actual, having another member of the team in, building really good, like, software for us. And everyone, all three of us have got the access to that stuff. And so it's like having a 6-man team.
And this is what you're using to sort of build out the dashboard that you've built.
Yeah. So our
give us an
internal
overview.
systems.
Give us an overview of the dashboard.
Okay. We have like an internal dashboard that is,
let me weigh in, because you're gonna play this down as you always do. So James has built a dashboard that was originally designed for litigation funders to track the progress of claims. So you could log on as a litigation funder. You could see all of the claims that have been onboarded, when they were onboarded, the batch, the names of the clients, the documents they've signed up to. If an SMS went out to that client, if an email went out to that client, what was the context of those messages? Has the letter of complaint been sent? Has the letter of claim been sent? What sort of documentation have we received back? The DSAR. You built it very much to be a very, very transparent, sort of almost like a greenhouse for Sentinel Legal, so that we were creating a situation where we didn't have to respond to the funders with all of these different reports and create all of these different solutions and reporting mechanisms and reporting milestones, so that the funder had their information. They could just log in with their own logins and interrogate the data in a user-friendly way, because all of these systems like Proclaim and all of the other legal CRMs that everyone seems to use they're so crap. They look like they were something from the 90s, like that film Big. It looks like they've been created from there. So you built this dashboard in the intention of creating this very, very transparent system, which obviously over the years has evolved. The introducers now use it. Just talk us through that.
So the problem we had was like trying to manage the data, like trying to manage it in a way that we could understand it, and people who weren't really super technical could really sort of understand what was happening. And we looked to a lot of third parties, didn't we? We went around to different options trying to work out, and there were so many convoluted solutions,
different off-the-shelf CRMs.
Just things that weren't that either they did bits of it and did this bit and did this bit, but they didn't do the full thing. And then so it was sort of like we'll just over time it was built up from like, you know, basic requirements, and now it's sort of got a full suite of things that it provides. So for example, it lets us onboard introducers to you know, procure who procure clients for us. You know, they can manage and track all of their activity that they all after all the hard work they've put in.
They can see if an email's been sent. They can see if an SMS was sent.
Yeah, so they get live stats of everything that's happening throughout the journey of the clients.
How many claims we've found.
Yeah, so they can check day-on-day stats for the leads that they've created, how many signed CFAs, how many credit reports have been run, how many claims have been accumulated from those credit reports. You know, they get
what's their averages.
Yeah, what are their averages? You know, what domains are currently active and receiving the most claims. They can, you know, they can check their agent stats to see what agents are performing the best on that day.
Yeah, that's interesting because you've actually set it up with one of the introducers is a call center, and they've got all of their agents on the dashboard, using the dashboard in real time in their call center to trigger SMSs and emails, haven't they?
Yes. So we have like a specific portal, like a e-sign portal, that we can create dynamic links for those clients, for clients that they want to sort of onboard for us, and they will, you know, initiate an API request to us, which then triggers an SMS to be sent to that client.
That's in real time.
In real time, and it will have a link in the SMS which they'll click, and when the client lands on the page, it will automatically in real time generate like dynamic documents ready for them to sign. And you know,
when you say dynamic documents, you mean documents that are pre-populated with their name, address, details?
Yeah. So we'll collect all that information from the introducer in real time, and then when the client does land on the page, we create two documents. We create a letter of authority, which has got the date of birth, the name, the address, and the lender's name, etc. Those different things, and then the same with the CFA that we have. It will generate an address. It will put their address, their first name, last name, their date of birth. It will create case references for the cases that we'll create for them, and they'll do all that. It will nicely put their name at the top of the e-sign portal, so that when they land on the page, all they have to do is they'll know it's specifically for them, and then they'll just sign away, and that will, you know, onboard the client like immediately. It's like a 30-second process for them to sort of come on board, and then the introducer tracks all of that sort of process in real time on the dashboard that we've got, so they can see, you know, how many clients they've onboarded in that day, how many have just opened the link, how many have actually signed the documents, and then they're tracking the stats across different agents that they've got, so that they can sort of check their performance and stuff.
And I suppose that, just to reiterate, that whole thing that you've built over the years has been built with the need for transparency, because you know as well as I do that it's either the funder asking for loads of information that obviously eats into the working day, it's the introducer asking for updates that eats into the working day, and it becomes so tedious. And you know, you have one funder and 5 introducers, plus obviously the stuff that comes through our website organically from all the new stuff. You almost need like multiple members of staff to manage relationships and pull stats.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that, because we also have like the alternative to that is that we have chatbots and AI agents also doing the same task as those introducers, driving traffic to those portals that we have. So they'll send out, so the chatbot will be communicating with the clients, and they'll send out the link instead of an actual human agent. Yeah, and drive the traffic to the portal that way.
Well, it's like with the whole 11 Lab stuff, isn't it? Now that, you know, you can have the inbound and outbound AI agents dialing clients and answering sort of FAQs and stuff. And I suppose the bonus is that we've discussed obviously at length is that the amount of emails that we've got now from just car finance conversations with either clients or lenders and different lenders, and the process of like back and forth, like from a machine learning perspective, from a data set perspective, like there's tens of thousands of data points that can go and be built out to almost create these custom built motor finance chat bots.
Where they understand the terminology, the questions
from
to ask.
From a lawyer's perspective, solicitor's perspective, all the way down to customer service perspective, and obviously an onboarding perspective. Like you can create multiple for super niches.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because like the knowledge that they can accumulate from the data that we provide gives them the ability to sort of come across as a real human.
Mm-hmm.
Like they become so fluent in the sort of
terminology.
Yeah, in the terminology and the sort of industry, I guess, that they know exactly what everything is, and you can apply like certain personalities to these agents to sort of give them a more understanding approach to people who are less literate in technology or even in the industry. You know what I mean? And so they can sort of make it easier for them to sort of make it easier for our clients to sign up because they're not just like some robot. Do you know what I mean? Like with like completely like non-articulate answers or no
generic,
personality.
Yeah, generic.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
press this button, press one,
press yes. Like if you go onto like a telecoms company and they give you their chatbot to sort of start off the process. God. It's like, yeah, all right.
How can I help you?
Yeah,
press one.
I don't understand how they've not advanced if we have.
No,
you know what I mean?
Well, that's the sort of last question I wanted to give you was that what with everything that you're doing within Sentinel now, like what's next? Like where do you see it going with? Obviously, you've got things like DeepSeek out, ChatGPT, you've got Copilot, you've got everything. Like, what are you and the team working on now that is getting you excited?
So we've got a couple of different things that we're sort of playing with, like ideas-wise. But obviously, the main things that we're looking for is sort of one of the things that I'm excited about is I talked about these agents, like the ones that write our code for us, and they can sort of develop complete features, and they'll test it and make sure all that stuff's good. And then we've got other agents like AI agents that will handle chats and communications and emails and sort of procuring clients for us. And then we've got other AI tools that will verify signatures and analyze documents and things like that. But I want to sort of see if we can sort of chain these different agents together in different AI techniques that we've got together, so that it's sort of a really fluid process that is sort of working in harmony with the people in our organization, making the journey for the client as seamless as possible, and at the same time making it easy for us to manage internally, so that really we can sort of autonomize the process where it's to a point where we can just say, yeah, that's perfect, submit.
Yeah, it's ready to go. Yeah. And I suppose it's just removing the tedious work from the solicitors that are in the company to go, okay, you don't need to do all of this because it's already been validated 3 or 4 times. It's come through this channel. There's a fully packaged case with like a pink pretty bow around it. Go away and now do your job, which is to be a solicitor. Yeah.
And I mean, it's definitely possible to do that in the future. I mean, it's just a case of there's a couple of advancements that need to happen, I think. Like, I mean, they've only just released, I think it's Gemini Live, where it can sort of watch what's happening in real time, and AI can track your desktop and stuff like that, and sort of tell you what it's looking at, and then do operations outside of that. Do you know what I mean? That's like brand new.
Yeah.
But in the future, I would hope that they develop that further, where it can sort of understand what's happening on the page and basically use our dashboard for us to sort of operate these different.
That's insane. It can optimize it.
Yeah. And I mean, not only will it perform the actions in the dashboard for us as opposed to having a human do it, but also write code features where it sees it needs to, where we need additions.
Wild. It just improves itself.
Yeah.
Just replaces the humans.
That's that is that's a scary step forward, but it is something that would be really cool to see.
Brilliant. Well, smashed it, mate. That was a 1 hour and 20 minutes. So brilliant. Obviously, anyone who wants to connect with James can find him on LinkedIn, James Exton, Exton. Obviously, chief AI guy in Sentinel. Anything else?
No, I think that's covered it. It's just been nice to be here. To be honest.
There's a lot more to
cool
cover
talk
off.
about.
We need to do another one very quickly, but
Yeah.
All right, cheers, mate. Thank you.